In this devotional, I'm going to share with you 3 thoughts from Psalm 90, verses 1 through 8, where I'll answer the question, is God greater than man? Psalm 90, verses 1 through 8 says, Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You return man to dust and say, Return, O children of man, for 1,000 years in your sight are but as yesterday when it is past, or as a watch in the night. You sweep them away as with a flood. They are like a dream, like grass that is renewed in the morning. In the morning it flourishes and is renewed. In the evening it fades and withers. For we are brought to an end by your anger. By your wrath we are dismayed. You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. Is God greater than man? Yes. Let's wrap it up. We can all say that God is greater than man. By definition, God is greater than man. Creator, creation. This all makes perfect sense that God would be greater than man. But how do we deal with God? We deal with God as if he were a man. We deal with God as if we were able to bargain with him, as if we could set something of worth before him that he needs or requires or desires or something like that. But none of that is the case because God is so much greater than we. We can acknowledge that God is greater than man, and we can all say that. But actually behaving as if we really believed it, that's a little bit trickier. So here are 3 thoughts from Psalm 90, verses 1 through 8, answering the question, is God greater than man? Thought number 1, God is eternal. God is from everlasting to everlasting. He is eternal. Before anything was made, God is there. So by our nature, we are limited. But by God's own eternal nature, he doesn't have those sorts of limitations that constantly plague us. He is eternal and as such is so vastly beyond anything we can even comprehend. It's hard for us to even wrap our minds around what the idea of eternity means. But God is so all-encompassing. He is so much greater than we can even imagine that we use language like from everlasting to everlasting, even though that's maybe not all that descriptive of a statement. It helps us to see that God is of a different nature than man, and that nature that he possesses is far greater than our own. Thought number 2, man is finite. So God is eternal, but man is finite. The psalmist talks about how we are like grass. We'll flourish in the morning, we fade in the afternoon. The Lord is able to pluck us up and toss us down. We are finite. We are creatures. We have a limited amount of time in this world and in this life. But God is eternal. So there's a categorical difference between God and man that we need to recognize. The Lord, as he reveals himself in Scripture, is vastly different from us. He's so much greater because he is eternal, and we are so much less because we are finite, like the grass of the field, like the mist in the morning. We're here for a moment and then we're gone, but the Lord is there forever. Thought number 3, he judges us. And this is how you know that God is greater than man. If his eternality and our finiteness weren't enough, he judges us. He is the one who decides what happens to us. He is the one who says whether or not we are worthy or whether there is something inherently lacking within us. The Lord is the one who does the judging. And because he does the judging, it means that he is greater than man. So many people, so very often, try and put themselves in the judge's seat. We try and judge God, even though he's eternal and we're finite. even though he has the capacity to judge all things and to do so perfectly, and we do not have that capacity. Isn't this what Job himself did? Job was saying again and again, if I could plead my case before God, I wouldn't be pronounced guilty. But what does Job do when he actually runs into God? When God makes his presence known before him, what does he say? Nothing. Because he starts to grasp just how much greater God is than man. The fact that God judges us helps us to see that he is in a much greater position of authority and power and wisdom than we could ever hold. So we ought to look to God for guidance, for wisdom, and submit to him and his ways. These three thoughts come from the assigned reading of Psalm 90 through 92. If you'd like to read through the Bible with me, you can do so by subscribing to this channel, by clicking on the link in the description, or by joining the Facebook group Through the Bible, where we are reading the text of Scripture together.